Dr. Shana.
Dr. Shana Lewis.
Dr. Shana D. Lewis.
Dr. Shana Lewis.
Oh, Dr. Shana D. Lewis.
All right, all right. Welcome to the Power Room. I am super excited. Welcome back. Welcome back to Power Moves with Dr. Shana, the podcast. I'm so excited that you have decided to join me for another episode of this amazing podcast. I am Dr. Shana, your host. I am your brand therapist, and I help experts and practitioners just like you build bankable brands well beyond traditional practice. I am thrilled to be back for another episode of this podcast. And we got a lot of stuff to get into today. But before we hop into it, I just want to put some reminders out there. So let's just be clear. Reminder number one, this podcast is taped live. So what that means is if we have some bloopers and some things that go wrong, we're going to all find out together. Okay. If you remember episode number one, the lights kept going off. They told me that they fixed that in the studio. We're going to find out as we go through episode number 3 today. Now, here's the other thing. If you did not watch episode number 2, we really took a deep dive into what were some of those power moves that you really want to make in your own life before you can show up in power in your business. So I'm hopeful that you watched that episode. If you didn't, you might want to go back and check it out because we did a really deep dive on those things to prepare your mind for what we need to be able to do for actual businesses. So today we're going to dive into a little bit more on the business side of what we can all do, what power moves we can make to show up in a way that feels good for us, that we feel successful, and we're not killing ourselves in the process, right? And so in Dr. Shana fashion, if you are watching this or listening to this podcast live, if you have an opportunity to get in the comments, please do. And just let me know who you are and where you're joining this podcast from. It really, really makes my heart smile when I know where all of my friends are joining me from in this space. So today we're going to talk about a topic that's craft your story. Write it down and make it plain. Now, one of the things that I am very clear about as an expert, as a practitioner, as an entrepreneur, is that I am very, very, very well trained to do the job that I was taught to do, right? You were as well too. I don't know what your expertise is. I don't know what you were trained in or what you have all your certifications in, or what all of your experience has been in. But no matter what it is, you do that thing a very, very, very well. Now, here's the place where we really need to learn the power moves, is that because we were trained that way, it doesn't mean that's the only way that we're able to actually enter into the marketplace. Okay. And so this season of Power Moves is really going to be about sharing with you the moves that you can make to actually show up in power in a marketplace that perhaps you didn't even know you had access to. I really want you to be able to see your opportunities that you've been blind to or help you grow the ones that you are familiar with. Okay. And so today I'm going to introduce a concept. It is something that is a framework that I have used in my own business in order to grow the empire that I am growing, that you will be able to use as well too. And it's something that I call the 7 rivers of income. And I know you're thinking rivers, Dr. Shana. They're normally called the 7 streams. Yeah, they call them the 7 streams, but I would like to have a river. I would like for my income streams to not stream, but to just flow so fast, knock me down, honey. Oceans would be fine as well too, right? If you would love some oceans, just put oceans in the comments, or rivers if that is exactly and precisely okay with you as well too. So I'm going to share with you what those 7 rivers of income really look like. And then we're going to dive into just one of them, which is books. And over the course of this season, absolutely, we will find a time to dive into all of them, but we won't do it all at one time. We'll do a little bit at a time. Okay. And so here they are. Here are the 7 of them, right? So these are all the 7 ways that you can divide your efforts in your business to show up in power and offer a variety of products and services to different people at different places. So why the seven rivers? Let me just say this first. Why? Because everyone who needs your services is not going to be able to enter into your stratosphere in the same way. Okay. Whether it is proximity, whether it is location, whether it is price point, no matter what it might be, there will be a variety of reasons why they aren't able to enter into one space over another. So we want to have options for folks and meet people where they are. So let's think about it in that way. So the seven rivers are based on that. So one of the first ones is speaking. It's a favorite of mine. We won't deal with that one today, but speaking is a real top of the house for me as an opportunity to create content, products, and services for folks that I'm able to help and serve. So speaking is number one. And number two is books. That's the one we're going to deal with today, folks. So if you've ever dreamed of being an author, if you've thought about writing and you don't know where to start, if you're thinking, oh, it takes too long to write a book, Dr. Shana, I ain't got time for that. I'm running a business right now. What are you talking about? This is the episode for you, I promise. I'm going to truly deep dive into books and talk to you about how you can write a book, why you really need to write a book, and what you can do with that book to truly leverage your genius. And finally, my friends, get paid what you are worth in life and business. Okay. So you got speaking, you have books, you even have events. It's another favorite of mine, hosting events, a variety of types. We won't deal with that today, but we'll come back to that. Another one is media. Now, for those of you who know Dr. Shana, you have followed me, whether that's on whatever social media platform, you know I do love a good television show. That is not the only media that I'm talking about. So I want you to think about the fact that you could do media on television, but you also have the opportunity to do social media and show up on a regular basis there. You got podcasts, you have written media, all kinds of things. We won't deal with that one today, but know that media is a great river of income. Coaching is another favorite of mine. It allows you to take folks on a journey. And so it becomes a great opportunity for you to serve people and serve them well. And then there's courses. So think about courses as on-demand things that people in your community, people who you really want to help, can do in their sleep. They don't, well, in your sleep, not they sleep. That's funny. They can't do it in their sleep. They'll do it in your sleep. You don't even know it's happening. And they are showing up in power, taking courses and things that you have created for them. And then the last one is products. Now, products could be a variety of things. Just think about things that support your potential client on their journey. So those are the seven rivers of income that truly allow you to build a bankable brand. But today we're only going to dive into one, and that's going to be books. So if you are already an author, just say me in the comments if you're already an author. If you're not already an author, just say not yet. Because after this episode, I want you to be able to say, Dr. Shana, I will become an author. I have a story to tell and I'm ready to tell it. So building your bankable brand on your story, not a bad idea. So we're going to hop into that one today. So one of the things that becomes really, really important, if we're talking about books and how important they are, the thing I want you to understand is that your story is powerful. Too often, we actually negate the power of our own stories. So what do you mean, Dr. Shana? I want you to think about it like this. The life that you've lived has been the life that you lived. You may not have thought anything special about it. You may not have thought that it was unique in some way because it's been a life that you've lived. But what you have to understand is that inside the pages, if you will, of your life story is something powerful for other people. So no matter if you are not an entrepreneur just yet, you're watching these Power Moves podcasts just to get some ideas about some things, or maybe you are an entrepreneur already. Maybe you are an expert. Maybe you are already out here doing some of this work, but you don't have a book because you didn't think you had a story to tell. Well, I invite you into a space that your story matters and it needs to be told. In fact, I said, craft a story, write it down, and make it plain. Okay. What do you mean, Dr. Shana? Every expert needs a book. Every expert needs a book. Why? I want you to think about it this way. If there's something that you really, 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 really want to know, yes, we do have the internet. Yes, we can all Google. But where is the first place? And I say first, let's say the historical place that many of us go to in order to learn something, to substantiate something. It's going to be in a book. Am I right? Y'all just tell me yes, yes, if I'm right in the comments. Because what I know is that when we are looking for something that is very specific, that is tried and true, that is credible and valuable, we're going to look for it in a book. We just are, you know? And so if you're an expert, you're a practitioner, and you really want to be in the space beyond traditional practice and doing things that look a little different, so you're no longer just trading time for money, then you must have a book. And so what we know right now, family, is that they did not fix my light situation. And I still have to continue to stand up to continue the podcast. So there you go. We're going to do this live together again. All right. So I want you to think about your area of expertise and exactly what you can share with some other folks in a book that would be powerful for them to know. Think about it. Your book could really be your next power move. It really could be. And it's not something that really is as hard as many of us maybe have thought it would be. So we're going to talk about that today. Now, I want to start this conversation first by having you begin to just consider what story you might actually tell if you were writing a book. We'll think about that in just a minute because your story matters. Okay. But the other piece here is I want to share with you my journey to authorship and what it's looked like, because I actually have authored 6 books, all of them self-published. 7 is in progress. I'm super excited about number 7. And all of them have been slightly different. And so I've written several kinds. My very, very, very first book was really a book. I called it a therapy session on steroids. It was a book where I wrote all of the things I talked about in therapy with my clients at that point in my world, because I was still practicing as a therapist. And that's what was inside of that book, all of it. And so if anybody wanted to learn some CBT, or they wanted to learn how to do some things related to therapy the way that I did it, get that book. It's called Get Your Life. Okay. That's the book that is the therapy session on steroids. Now, in conjunction with that book, I also wrote a journal that is Get Your Life, the journal. It actually was the first book, and then the book came later, actually. And so that pair, or that bundle, if you will, worked together to help those who were reading it to learn how to get their life, right? By finding things that they could do to think more positively, to find themselves in a way where they had more control of their world instead of their world having control of them. And so that's what that first bundle of books was about. Now, my second set of books really were very different. Those were anthologies. Now, some of you may be saying, Dr. Shana, what's an anthology, and why would I even think about that as a book type if I'm an expert? Well, the anthologies were all about women, and those were called When Destiny Needs an Intervention. By the way, you can find all of my books on Amazon if you're looking for them. So When Destiny Needs an Intervention, Volume 1, Volume 2, and Volume 3. These books were an opportunity for me to be able to let women who have powerful stories to share them with the world, because my brand that I have been building is all about women's empowerment and women being well and women taking care of themselves. So that anthology was an amazing way for me to be able to do that. Now, I too had a story inside the anthology. And so that series, 3 of them, was my opportunity to show up and share stories and power with the audience of people that I wanted to serve, which has been women historically. Okay. Now, the last book that came out is Self-Care is the New Sexy. Now, that's the brand where I work with high achieving executive women who are overwhelmed and just burnt out in life because she's just not taking care of herself. And so that book really was twofold. Number one, it became a way for me to share my journey to wellness and self-care. And then number 2, it was my opportunity to share a roadmap for women to follow to get the plays that they needed in order for them to find themselves in a space of wellness as well too. So what I want you to understand is that books come in all kinds of forms. They have all kinds of reasons that you may write them. But ultimately, no matter which book I'm talking about, of the 6 that I've written and self-published, all of them had an audience that they were targeted to that was the audience that I was building my bankable brand on at that time. So as you are listening to this, I'm hopeful that this podcast is not just one that you listen to. Oh, this was really a great conversation, Dr. Shana, but it's something that you are beginning to think about. What can you do in your world yourself? Okay. And how can you create what we're talking about here to continue and further the growth of your own brand? So now, here's the thing that you gotta know about books. People connect to other people through stories. They do. And so this is why having an opportunity to share stories, your stories, inside of a book is very powerful. I want you to think about for a moment who's someone whose story you enjoy. That resonates with you, that when you hear it, you're like, oh man, I know what they're talking about. Oh, that was me 5 years ago, or whatever the case may be. Whose story connects to you? So I think about, so Auntie Tab is what I call her. Y'all know Tabitha Brown. Her stories are really powerful, but her recent story that she started telling is about her being in menopause and needing to have these shots and all these other kind of things. And I'm like, girl, I know what you're talking about. I connected to her because there's a story that she shared that connects to my actual life. Mission accomplished. What you have to know, because you are an expert, an entrepreneur, a practitioner, and you're entering into this marketplace, or you're growing or scaling the marketplace from this side of the house beyond traditional practice, what you got to know is people got to know, like, and trust you before they're going to buy anything from you, before they're going to subscribe to anything that you have, before they're going to sign up and say, yeah, that's my girl, I'm going to rock with her. And so sharing parts of your story and your journey is exactly and precisely how you'll be able to get people on board in that way. So Auntie Tab got me all day when she's talking about pills and pellets and menopause and all of those things. I'm like, girl, I know what you're talking about. I'm right there with you. So as an expert, you may practice in a very private way, right? Many of us do. As an ex, well, I'm gonna say as an ex, a former therapist, my practice happened in private. Like there was nobody there but me and the client. So no one else knew the work that we were doing. But when I write my work in a book, whether it's my journey or other things that I want to share, now what was private now becomes very public, very visible. And guess what? Now it adds credibility to who I am and the work that I do. So you have the same opportunity here, my friend, that you can take what you do in the private and make it public so that other people can latch on to it, gain insight from it, and grow from it. Does that make sense? And so your own journey has this very same capacity to help people grow with you. And so my ability to share my journey to wellness in my new book, Self-Care is the New Sexy. The playbook has been a game changer. And I've been able to share that story in so many spaces and places and sell that book to so many people because I was willing to share the story. And the connection that gets made allows people to know me a little bit more, like me a little bit more, and trust me, guess what? Just a little bit more. And you, my expert practitioner friend, my entrepreneur friend, you have the same capacity as I did to do the very same thing with a book of your own. So you want to create a story that people don't forget and that they connect to you and whatever your brand might be. Now, I was told you Self-Care is the New Sexy was my last book because my brand was all about wellness. So I had to tell a story that related to that, right? And so I don't know what your brand is. I don't know what your area of expertise is, but whatever it might be, you want to have a story that's connected to it. All right. And so thinking about that right now, take just a moment. I know this is a podcast and you're just listening, but I want you to think for just a minute of what story do you have that's connected to the brand that you're building of the people who you want to help, because you want your story to connect to them so that they connect to you and what services and products you may have to offer that we continue to build throughout the Power Moves podcast season number 1. Okay. All right. So I want you to understand this other piece here. There are tons of types of books that you can actually write, tons of them. Now, you could write 1 million of them, but I only want you to think about one. Can everybody give me a one? One, just one. Okay. In the comments, one, just one. And I'm going to share you different ones. And I want you to think about which one of these resonates for you. So types of books. I got them written down so I don't forget any. Ebooks, Now, ebooks are short. They may be, I don't know, 10 pages or less. They may be 5 pages, but it's short. It's something that people can consume pretty quickly. They're able to gain the insight from you, and they're able to know what you have to offer, know a little bit about you, know a little bit about what you provide, what service you provide, who you help or support, and that's it. Ebooks are pretty short. You also can create how-to guides depending on your expertise. So I don't know, maybe you are let's say a carpenter, a builder of some sort, and you want to show some, or maybe you're a cook. Maybe I got some chefs on the line, and you want to take someone through a process of step by step by step on how they can create something that you know how to create. Powerful, right? So if you put it in a book, think about cookbooks. That's literally what they are. They are how-to guides, how to cook a cake, how to cook this chicken, whatever it might be. It's a how-to guide. So depending on what your area expertise is, a how-to guide might be a perfect book for you to enter into this space of building your bankable brand and your entry into the rivers of income framework. Or here's another one. This is one of my favorites too, a workbook. Now, I love a good workbook simply because it allows people to work with you through a process. So if you're thinking about this, a workbook may be an opportunity for you to share some information and give them some questions that they can reflect on, some things they can work through. It needs to include work. Okay. The workbook is going to include work. So it's a powerful opportunity because it's short. Folks don't have to focus a whole long time necessarily, but they're able to truly engage because you're giving them some activity to do. I love a good workbook. Every book that I have produced outside of the anthologies has a workbook that goes with it because I understand the power of workbooks as well. We'll talk about how workbooks and books go together in just a minute. You can also create a book about thought leadership. I don't know what your area expertise is, but are you a thought leader there? And that's a whole nother conversation about what a thought leader really is. But if you are a thought leader, which I hope that you will be a thought leader in your area expertise, then you are able to write a book about those thoughts to help increase the influence you have amongst other people. Thought leaders influence how we think, what decisions we make, and what moves we make, right? And so if you were a thought leader, you could put those thoughts in a book and create a thought around what it is, the work that you do. Now, the other options I've already mentioned, anthologies. If you are a cook, maybe it's a cookbook of what you call them, recipes of a lot of different chefs, not just yours. That's a bit of an anthology, would you say? In my case, mine was around women and women's stories. Maybe you do other work. Maybe you're a tech guru or a financial expert, and you bring in other experts to share different stories around the area of your expertise. I don't know. It's different people contributing to that book. That's an awesome opportunity. It's a great way to generate some income as well too, and share some powerful insights to other people. You can also do self-help books depending on your area expertise. As a therapist, self-help was a great opportunity for me. That book, Get Your Life, is a self-help book. It's a therapy session in a book, but it's self-help. People do what they call it DIY, do it yourself, because you're not actually in the session with me, but I'm giving you the tools, right? So self-help. And another one is journals. Now, I love a good journal. My very first publication was a journal. Like I said, they are very simple to produce, but they can be powerful because people can reflect on concepts in a journal and actually make some great progress. So think about that as an option as well, too. And the final one is what I described in my Self-Care is the New Sexy book, which is your story with steps included on how people can get to from where they are to where they desire to be based on how you did it. So thinking about a part of your own journey that connects to the people who you want to serve, you're able to extract components of that and create a story and steps that they can follow to get to where you've gotten to. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So those are the different types. So I've given you, run back through those. And what I want you to write in the comments is which of these resonates for you. An ebook, a how-to guide, a workbook, thought leadership book, an anthology, which is a compilation book, self-help book, a journal, or your story with some tangible steps. So just share with me in the comments which of these types of books do you think, if I was going to write a book, Dr. Shana, if that was going to be my first power move out the door, that's the one I would do. I want to hear about it. because folks, these podcasts really aren't just for me to hear myself talk. I really want to help you and support you in your journey to make the moves to the next space. And some of you may be saying, well, Dr. Shana, I'm not an expert. I don't really have a business just yet. It's okay. You got a story. So what I'm talking about right now still can apply to you as well, too. No matter where you are, where you find yourself at this space, these things can definitely apply to you to help increase your impact in this world. Now, how do you choose which book you really, really want to write? Well, I asked you a second ago to write which one are you the most excited about or which one resonates for you. But how do you really choose the one you want to write? Well, consider what outcomes you want to have and your audience. So I always say, write the book that your audience will respond to. You got to know your people, though. You got to know your people. And here's the thing, if your people are very technical and the work that you do is very technical, then you may want to write a book that has more technical components to it because you know your people, that's how they think. That's how they think. And so make that make sense for them. It'll be a better value to them. They'll get more out of it and you'll be more successful in that way. Okay. So if your folks are folks who are really deep into the healing journey and they really want to reflect, then create a journal for them because you know they can use it. And it'll be part of the work that you do with them. Does that make sense? So you want to think about the people who you serve when you're considering what book to write. But no matter what, there's any one of these could be a great option. You just got to consider for your audience, does it make great sense? Okay. I want to see your story in all of it, though, because your story is the foundation of it all, especially if it really ties very closely to the work that you do with other people. Okay. All right. So now you've written this book, you pick the type, you're like, okay, Dr. Shana, I've written the book. Well, let me back up because I hear somebody saying, I don't have time to write a book, Dr. Shana. It's going to take forever, Dr. Shana. Oh, it sounds good, but I'm not going to be able to do that. Let me ask this question. How long do y'all think it takes to actually write a book? Actually write a book. How long? I've heard people say a lot of things. I've heard people say years upon years. I've heard people say, oh, it'll take forever. I don't have time for that. What if I told you that I have a methodology for writing a book that literally can take you 7 days? I'll wait. I said it. I said 7. I say 7 whole days and not a word from you. I'm being silly, y'all. 7 days to write a book. Now, I didn't say publishing out the door. I said written. You can truly write a book in 7 days. It's a framework and a formula. Honestly, any of the things I'm talking about are doable if you have the right framework and formula to do them. So I want you to dispel the myth that says it's going to take me forever to write this book, because it's not. Y'all keep rocking with Dr. Shana. It is not going to take you forever to get it done. You can get it done pretty quickly once you decide what you're doing and you get to it. Okay. So with that said, it won't take forever. It can be done in 7 whole days. Okay. Now, once it's written, you got it published, it's in your little hot hands, and you're ready to rock and roll and get into this world. How do you leverage this book so that it can actually increase your impact, your influence, and your income, you might ask? Great question. Now, I'm going to tell you this. One of the best ways that I have been able to leverage my books is as a speaker. Now, if you are not, we haven't tapped into speaking yet. We'll deal with that as another power move later in this season. But if you are a speaker, you got to have a book. That means you're an expert because you're on the stage talking about something. And when you get off the stage, people want more of you. And so if you don't have anything to offer, you leave them kind of high and dry. It's kind of like if you were what do you call it? If you were a surgeon and you got your patient on the table, you open them up and you get a phone call and you walk away and you just leave them there. Like, don't do me like that, doc. Like, close me up, give me something else. So your opportunity to provide a book after you speak at a vending table, number one, allows you to make some more money while you're there. But number two, it allows you to serve the people even greater while you are there. Does that make sense? So if you don't have a book, you're leaving money on the table, and you're also leaving the people wide open, and they're feeling a little bit discombobulated because you just left me here with nothing else. They got maybe some notes, but they need some more. Okay. So your book allows you to leverage speaking opportunities. Now, it can allow you to leverage speaking ops on the front or the back. I'm going to give you this little tip here. For those of you who are like, I'm a speaker, Dr. Shana, I'm writing notes, write this down. On the back end, it can help you on the vending table, okay, where you can sell and make some more money. On the front end, if you're negotiating your speaker rate with the organization that you're speaking to, maybe they can pay your full rate, maybe they can't. But I'm always going to ask them or offer to add my book as an add-on for every single person in the audience, because I already know when I show up, I'm going to kill it. I'm going to help the people. They're going to need some more. So I'm going to offer the book on the front end so that the organizer can go ahead and purchase a book for every single person. Y'all catching that? Every single person. Maybe your book is $20, so you can give them a discount. Let's call it $15. Let's just call it 15. If it's 100 people in the audience, 15 times 100, you do the math. You've already made another $1,500 before you even get into the room fully. You understand that? And they already paid your speaker rate as well. So you have an opportunity to add value even before you open your mouth. Then what happens once they've already bought or pre-bought those books, you've had the talk. Now you get to have a book signing at the end of the event. So everybody gets a book, they come to your table and you sign their books. It is hands down an amazing way to leverage books. If you are not speaking, you can't do that. We're going to get to speaking later on in this season. But if you are speaking or you desire to speak, have a book. Hands down, have a book. Now, here's the other thing. A book will also allow you to leverage media. So you have an opportunity to show up and pitch yourself to media and say, hey, I got this new book and I would love to talk to your audience about it. They love that. Books are an amazing way to show up on news, on podcasts, on local TV shows. You pick your poison. It doesn't matter. Books are a great way in the door. I'm just saying. I've been on so many shows because of my books. And when I get there, they are promoting your book. So what happens? Not only do you get there to talk about it, but they're telling folks all about it. Now it looks amazing because it's on TV or it's on a podcast or someone else is talking about it. And now you have an opportunity for other folks to go find it wherever you're selling it and click links. So that's one of the ways you get to leverage your book is through media. I promise you, hands down, it's a great way. If you don't have a book, guess what? You can't leverage media using it. Okay. You can get workshops, you can get booked for things because of your book. So all of that said, have a book, my friends. Okay. So I know our time is just about spent here, and I really like to keep these shows short so they can be digestible and you can get on with the rest of your day. So I'm going to ask you this one question. I've given you a lot of things to think about. I'll talk to you about why you need to have a book. I've talked about the types of books that you could potentially write. I've talked to you about how you can leverage your book once you have it to increase that impact, that influence, and that income. All of these things allow you to no longer work one-to-one, but instead work one-to-many, right? And so with that said, which kind of book do you want to write? And when do you want to get started? Put it in the comments. This is an interactive podcast. I know most of them don't operate that way and folks just talk, but that's not how Dr. Shana is built. I'm here because I want to support you and I want to know that you are taking this information and you are using it and put it into action. So get in the comments and tell me what you're wanting to do. And the other component here is if you're ready to get it going, then there's support for you to get it done, right? You don't have to do this alone. So all of you who are watching right now, you can go down to the bottom of this video and click on the free gift that I have for you. It's going to even give you even more support along this journey. Click it. It's going to tell you even more about how you can 10x your journey right now by doing things well beyond traditional practice. I got you. You are not here by yourself. Okay. So as we bring this whole episode to a close, I'm excited about the power of books and you, my expert friend, crafting a story, writing it down and making it plain. That is a power move that will be so amazingly beneficial, not just to you, but to all of those that you serve. Hands down, I promise you it will. And so I want you to consider this affirmation for today. So you all know every power move episode, there's an affirmation that I want us to think about, right? There's a power move affirmation that I want us to think about. Here's your power move affirmation today. My story is my power. Write that in the comments if you're with me. My story is my power. So I gave you lots of types of books that you could potentially write, but I want you to know hands down, the story, the book connected to your story is going to perhaps be the most powerful one that you ever get to write. I'm just saying it is. So do not be afraid to share it because your story is absolutely your power. So With that said, folks, I am excited that you were here today. I want you to know that you can, you will, and you must. The next move is on you. If you don't make a move will be made, and it may not be the one that you wanted to have happen. So make the next power move, and I will see you on our next episode next week, next Thursday, 1 o'clock Central Standard Time, right here on YouTube. I'm Dr. Shana. I'm your host, and I'll see you next time. Bye, folks.